the Enfield Inland Wetlands and Watercourse meeting, our regular meeting for Tuesday, November 21st. It is now 7:06. And we can do a pledge of allegiance.
Do we have to face north?
Where's my flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's a flag right there.
Oh, and that little thing? You can barely see it. In case of emergency, you would go out these doors, take a right, go down the stairs and out the building. Is this the nearest door?
Yeah.
Oh, there's no stairs?
No stairs.
Okay,
Straight out.
Straight out the door.
Straight out.
I'm a little confused where I am. I'll do roll call. So Donna Corbin-Sminsky, present. Kevin Jordan.
Present.
Ann Collins. Present. Nancy Martin is absent. And Chris Renaud.
Present.
Okay, I'm going to Chris Renaud. Okay. We did get 2 letters of resignations. Bob Hendrickson, as he was voted on for the town council, and Phil Kober, as he was voted on for the board of ed. So we're going to miss him, and we wish them the best in their new positions. Next we have public communication. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak regarding items not on the agenda? Is there anybody want to speak regarding items not on the agenda?
I just have a question. Like a couple things.
Okay.
You have to come sit.
we're over here.
Oh, okay.
We have a mic or anything?
The room can pick it up.
Okay. This is a new room for us. So.
Oh, that's awkward.
Yeah.
Lori Parker, 105 Cottage Road. I was just wondering about the application for Mayfield, if that is on the agenda tonight or not.
So it is on the agenda, but is not being heard tonight.
Okay, so there's,
When we get down to it, but yeah.
okay, so I didn't know if there was any.
You can respond to your email.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that meant it was not on
So it's
tonight.
tabled.
Okay, so it's tabled,
Yeah,
okay.
we're not allowed to respond to any of those, and the agendas are always available online. on the
Okay.
website, so
I mean, it
you
does
don't-
show it that it's.
It does show it on
Yeah.
there, so I know Georgie did respond, I
We
just,
received the continuation today, which I'll get to when we get down to
okay,
that.
all right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Anybody else want to speak on items? Moving forward. Correspondence. Don't really have any.
No correspondence.
No correspondence.
But I will make a motion to add to the new business, vote for the 2024 calendar.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Chris? Any discussion? Looks fine. So we'll do a roll call. We're just gonna do this. It'll be Donna Corbin-Sminsky, yes. Kevin Zorba?
Yes.
Virginia's not here yet. Ann Collins?
Yes.
And Chris Renaud.
Yes.
4 in favor, motion passes. We have the minutes from October 17th.
I will make a motion to accept the minutes of October 17th, 2023, and approve the minutes.
Second,
Second.
Chris? Yeah, I do have a change to it. Under the roll call, they don't list Ann. I know she was here. So, as being present. So if you could just add that change. No, this is fine, that's fine. You can just add that.
Yeah,
That's great.
as amended.
Okay. Chris, second.
Second.
That's the only change I saw. So, roll call would be myself, Donna Corbin-Sminsky, Kevin Jordan,
Yes.
Ann Collins,
Yes.
and Chris Renaud.
Yes.
4 in favor, motion passes as amended. Town attorney report. Hey, Jenny. July 7th. Yeah, just that. You have to get yourself out for a minute.
Yeah.
You said it's bright in here.
Yes.
Need your sunglasses.
I know, I need my glasses. Here we go.
Okay. So we are on the town attorney report that we
Okay.
received October 26, 2023 regarding items in litigation. So, after that, continued public hearings, we have none. New public hearings, we have none. Old business, IW 691, 145, and 153 South Road. Application for a wetland permit for the development of the Maplewood Village Apartments, Enfield Properties LLC, Maplewood Village of Enfield LLC, applicant owner, map 55, lot 80, map 55, lot 59, I-1, R44 zones. This is continued from October 17th. Good evening, gentlemen. Can you state your name and address for records?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Dave Ziax. I'm a principal and professional engineer with F.A. Hesketh Associates, and we're located over next door in East Granby. With me this evening is George Logan from REMA, who prepared the wetlands assessment report for you folks, and then Frank Triano representing the applicant, Enfield Properties.
Okay, so before we even start, I need to say that my property abuts this property, M37 Barrett Road. Yeah, those 5 houses down there. So if you need me to recuse myself, I'm glad to do so.
Yeah, no, I respect the integrity of the commission, and I don't think we have any difficulty doing it.
No.
Good job. No, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for alerting us.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And my name's on it, on the site plans and everything, so.
I missed it. Well, I hate to say how fast time flies, but time flies fast. I have been working with Frank on this project, this site. Actually, if you noticed, my job number is 90071. So I've been on this site since 1990.
Wow.
There was a project back in the early 90s that was a condominium project that the Triano family proposed and was all approved. And that fell victim to the condo market of the 90s. And then we came back in around 2010, 2011 with a larger project than before you this evening under a different zoning regulation. It was the elderly housing regulation, and an industrial component to it with office buildings. But so we're here with a smaller project than what you folks approved back in 2010 and 2011, and TPZ did as well. And we're under a new regulation that allows regular market rate rental apartments. They don't have to be elderly. And but it has a unique characteristic in that it must be on a parcel of land that has 2 zones. It has to abut an industrial zone. So I hate to say it was written for us, but it's sort of written for. But there are about another 6 major properties that are along the 91 corridor mostly that have some undeveloped land that really it needs a transitional use. Single-family homes really aren't appropriate, and then there's there's residential zone land where so you can't develop it for commercial or industrial purposes. So this lot fits that category. The lot is it's a combined lot of 145 and 153 South Road, so it's 31.78 acres. Plus it includes a piece of the old extension of Barrett Road, which was a paper road forever.
Yes, excuse me, Dave, do you want me to flip the next?
Yeah, you can go to the next slide, sure, yeah. So this is the master plan, MA1, you probably have seen. And again, north is always to the right on these plans. So the westerly side is the industrial zone. The easterly side that abuts Barrett Road is zoned R44. And that's really the subject area for the development. Just to give you just some statistics, the I-1 portion of the site is a little over 14 acres and the residential is 17. So it's almost a 50-50 split on this parcel. The plan is calling for 168 rental apartments in 6 buildings. They'll all be 3 stories, pretty conventional rental apartment buildings. one community building on site that'll have an outdoor pool for tenants. And then there's 253 parking spaces. There's going to be one single driveway that will lead out to the traffic light at the intersection with Freshwater Boulevard. So it'll be, the only connection to Barrett Road will be for a fire lane, a gated fire lane for the fire department. But all of the traffic from the development will go out to South Road at the existing traffic light. We'll have to modify that a bit. We have public water and sewer. Why don't you go to the next slide, because I think that has the, yeah, so this I pulled out of the file. This was the 2010-2011 approval drawings. And you can see the blue buildings that front along South Road, those were both 20,000 square foot office buildings with a couple hundred parking spaces associated with that. With this proposal, we've taken that out of the proposal. There really is no market right now for that type of development. And then we'll have to reevaluate maybe something in the future as, as time goes by. The next slide will show you, this is what we're proposing this evening. So the residential portion is essentially the same that was from 2010. The only difference is we've added a swimming pool next to the community building where there was a play yard before. But the buildings are all arranged the same, the roadways are, and I'll tell you about some of the other components that remain the same. Back in 2010, we did extensive field studies. George was, like me, 13 years younger, and did extensive studies. We did a full report. The wetlands were flagged at that time by both Tom Petrus, who's now semi-retired, but George has been working on the flagging as well. He's in Poland. Oh, he's in Poland? The application was approved by this commission after a few nights of public hearings, and then it went on to be approved by planning and zoning. For this application, George went out and with his team and conducted new updated field investigations, rechecked the wetlands flagging to make sure nothing's changed since 2010, and it's in his report. He'll speak shortly with his findings. So basically, the current application is the same, minus the two office buildings. We do have, some of the little changes, just for the file, is we've added EV charging parking stations now, which is required. It doesn't really affect, the wetlands impacts at all, but just to give you an idea. And then we did some minor changes to the overall drainage system design, because now the data that we use is the new NOAA data, which has been updated. It has more intensive short duration storms. So we remodeled it using that and gave that to your engineering department. They reviewed it and everything worked out okay. As far as the impacts to wetlands go, we designed this so that, as George pointed, I think, in his report, the buildings are all around the outside perimeter of the development. So they face the wetlands that surround our development. And the parking's been brought inward into the facility so that, it minimizes the exposure to the wetlands from the parked cars in the way. The direct impacts are located at they're pretty much existing crossings from the old farming operations, so we chose to put them there. But the whole site is disturbed, as George will tell you, but these are actually, evidence of either the crossings are still there or there were definitely crossings there for driveways for the farming operations. But on the West Drive, which is at the top, at the middle top there, that's an actual primary driveway for the facility. Then down at the bottom of the drawing where we abut Barrett Road, that's really just a loop for a fire lane for the fire department. It's only 20 feet wide and it will be designated as the fire lane. There are two small isolated pockets that have been previously disturbed that we're going to need to fill those pockets. Maybe go to the next slide. I think I've got that shown on. So gives you an idea. These are the existing conditions with flagged wetlands, and then my little yellow blob is showing you that really we're confined to this area down here in the lower right-hand side of the parcel, and everything outside that yellow line will remain undisturbed, for this application. Maybe go to the next slide. Yeah, this shows you down in the lower right-hand corner where we have the small intermittent water course that drains over to South Road. South Road is right off the edge of the property there, and there's twin culverts underneath there that take a portion of the drainage, and those are the proposed units in that area. There you can see the separating distance there. Next slide. Yeah, so here's the overall site, and you can see in my purplish color, magenta color, that's the wetland areas that have been identified. As you can see down over in the lower right-hand corner, there's that intermittent water course develops down along the easterly side of the property and then drains northerly, goes underneath the two 24-inch culverts under South Road, and that continues to flow all the way along Freshwater Boulevard, all the way to the shopping centers, all the way to Freshwater Brook eventually. Then we have the middle wetlands where the W's are. You can see I hatched out where that crossing area would be. It's a couple thousand feet of disturbance where the roadway in yellow crosses there. And then right next to that is those two isolated pockets that are somewhere a little over 1,000 square feet each that are, out there all by themselves in the field there. And we're going to have to fill those in order to, complete the development. But that's it on the direct impacts. There's no other direct. Oh, and there's a tiny little crossing where the fire lane is. So there's basically 4 locations, and that adds up to just a little over 4,900 square feet. So really, there's 10.83 acres of wetlands on the entire 30-something acres parcel, and we've managed to limit the direct disturbance to 4,900 square feet. For the stormwater management, it's a rather large watershed that actually, between the 30 acres here and there's another 20-something acres off-site, is really in the subdivisions along Barrett Road to the east of us that drain through this site. There is a break of about 50 acres of that goes to the west and goes underneath a culvert underneath the industrial driveway next to us. And then that goes under South Road, and that continues on along 91. And again, it eventually gets up to Freshwater Brook. And then the last 5 acres, which is this bottom triangle over here, that's the part that goes through the water course that goes to the twin culverts underneath South Road. So it's like 50 acres to the west, 5 acres to the directly to the north. Our goal was to maintain the current flow patterns. We have a lot of little subflow patterns out here going because of the topography, and we wanted to mimic that. Sometimes you'll see projects come in where they'll sort of pipe everything to one large detention basin. I try to avoid doing that, mainly because of water quality considerations. So what we have is we have 8 on-site water quality basins, including a larger one that'll be right in the center of that parking area in the front. But we have them placed strategically around so that, if you want to call it dozing, we doze the wetlands, sort of following the current pattern of runoff from the site, rather than having one large detention bay. Our largest outlet is from that center area. We have an 18-inch pipe that flows to the west as emergency overflow, but that's for a 100-year storm. So you can imagine we've managed to keep the flows small so that an 18-inch pipe will do the job. And because of all the overlapping 100-foot upland review areas, we're at 5.5 acres of upland review area disturbance, but that's because of these 100-foot radiuses all kind of come together with each other, yeah. So the other feature that we built into the stormwater drainage system is a lot of the parking spaces will sheet runoff across stone filters into these water quality basins. That's very effective towards a water quality solution. And they're all small. There's lots of small parking areas. There's no real large parking area on the site. So I think that the sheet runoff across the stone drain will work out really nice. And we've also included 52 permeable paver spaces. And mainly that's the ones along the outskirts closest to the wetlands. So those will be done with permeable paver units. And we have an under drain system underneath that, so we'll get some more filtration that way and some more cleansing before they even get into the water quality basins. We've provided a full erosion control plan, per the normal town standards. We have extensive landscaping, both for, aesthetic purposes and also for mitigation purposes around the perimeters, to add some additional buffer between the backs of the units and the wetland areas. Those are shown on sheets LA1 and LA2 in your package. We've also come up with, this was actually part of the previous application. There are 3 designated areas, you'll see them on LA2, that are labeled A, B, and C. Those are mitigation planting areas that we worked out with George previously. There's a little over 4,000 square feet of that. And that's really in the areas where the crossing is for the main driveway. That area there is all kind of disturbed and beat up in there. We're going to clean that out, replant it, and make it into a nice area in that area there. And then where when you get past the 2 isolated pockets, there's the 3rd isolated pocket, but it's much larger, the one with the W in the middle. That area has been plowed up and beat up for many times over. We're going to replant that area with a conservation mix, and it's going to be in the conservation area, so there won't be any more disturbance to that area, part of our overall plan. So as previously done, there's 7.26 acres of the site will be put into permanent conservation area, and that's shown on the various drawings. There's no change to that. With that, I'll turn it over to George. George, why don't you give us a nice briefing on it?
Okay, so we do have a report, and what I want to do is just highlight a few things for you. Just in general, so as Mr. Zayas just said, we were part of this application that happened back when. So we had a hefty report. So we looked at the report, we're like, things changed in the field. So we need to go back out and make sure things are still the same. There's no significant, substantial changes to existing conditions. So we trucked out there first time with this gentleman here, Mr. Sanchez, I remember, and that was October 8th, and then we were back on the 15th and the 20th, and that's to 2022. Then we come this year, we did one beginning of the year, January 30th, and then April 12th, 2023. And the reason for that one was to make sure that we don't have any vernal pool habitats, because there are seasonally flooded areas out there. So we've really looked at this area, and I had to go back and look at some of the pictures that I had from before. That was from December of 2009 and January of 2010 and April of 2011. So we had done more or less the same thing, looked at it off-season and on-season. And the big surprise was vegetation seems to grow.
So, grew a lot.
we were discussing, for instance, the big W there, the isolated wetland, which is isolated from the rest of the wetland. There's a ditch, watercourse, and that back then was just open field.
Yeah.
And now it's an older thicket.
Yeah. Wow.
So that changes the mitigation plan a little bit, and I'll discuss that as we go along. So anyhow, primary thing, I just wanted to be sure there's no change in the wetland delineations. I need to take a little more extra look on the triangle on the other side of Barrett Road. Now that's abandoned because we hadn't looked at it as much the last time around. And I did a little more than I had done the last time because as years have gone by, I'm always interested in how the landscape changes over time. So I've gone back and looked at some of the aerial photographs, and I've submitted this time. I submitted them in the report. Unfortunately, I have color, and you might have seen those on the PDF that we sent. So I look back and I actually looked at 1934, but figure 4, which is black and white anyhow, give you the 1965, and you see the old farmhouse, and you see, the tobacco barn, or I guess it was. And the site is basically open, just corner to corner, at least on this side of the abandoned Barrett Road. And on the other side of Barrett Road, on the triangle, one of the things that I see that I'll point out, is you can see the signature of wetlands close to Bear Road. You see an agricultural pond.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's probably for irrigation purposes. My guess is they got a big hole and got the water getting into it. And then if you flip a couple of pages in the report, and you go to the
Yeah.
1986, is like, oh, where's the wetland? No
Yeah.
more. So that was filled. My guess, it was filled just after the 1970 aerial photograph.
yeah.
Most likely because everyone in Connecticut was running around before the bell rang in 1972 to try to fill wetlands.
Just what's
Yeah.
happening.
And some of that might have been related to the installation of the sanitary sewer too.
That is also,
Yeah.
because it goes right through there.
They had to put the soil somewhere.
So,
Yeah, they have to do something with
so
it.
they filled some wetlands and then created a water course, a ditch water course that goes off the South Road. Anyway, so that was kind of interesting. I hadn't really paid too much of close attention on that. So long history of agricultural use. I remember the front portion was farmed with corn until 2010 probably. And then there was mowing, and this gentleman maintained the mowing and then didn't.
Got tired.
So some of these meadow wetlands have become kind of a mosaic of scrub, shrub, and meadow, which is, it's fine, that's, what happens, I guess. And the reason, and somewhere in the report, you'll see that back when we'd said, you have enough of this emergent wetland here that you might, even though we didn't have a listed species estimated habitat, we said, well, you have enough meadow here, you might have things like Savannah sparrow, they like the sort of the wetter area. No longer, because they don't have enough space there, so that's kind of going away. So anyhow, existing conditions have morphed as far as the vegetation is concerned. We gathered information on that April of this year to make sure that we didn't have any vernal pool habitats. We didn't have any vernal pool obligate species. We had other species. We had green frogs and pickerel frogs and spring peepers and the like. We did that. We did both dip netting and egg mass survey on the April date. Didn't find anything. We got information in the report regarding the geology, and who knows what the geologists around here, all glacial lacustrine clays deep, and then you have the overlying sands, in some places you don't. The soils, for the most part, that are non-disturbed, the Walpole, pearly drain soils, and those are more in the core wetland corridor. As you get out to the fringes where the agriculture had happened, especially all the wetlands that were close to or impacting, those are equines. Because what did the farmer do over time? He plowed and plowed, and whatever wet spots there were became smaller and smaller. Well, he didn't do a good enough job, so he had two little isolated ones that were left over.
Yeah.
And you saw one of those pictures that I have back there that shows the wetness in the previous mowed field. So you have one wetland system, which I'm calling the W1 system, which is all the wetlands except for the wetlands in the triangle that are interconnected. So that includes all this system here, all the system, of course, what's off-site. They all go together. There's a northwesterly ditched perennial, semi-perennial watercourse, depending on the year, I guess. And it all goes off to the industrial portion. And then as Mr. Zayek said, it eventually gets through the freshwater brook. And then you have this other litter system here in the triangle. So the overall, so you have forested wetlands, which we don't see, which are often here. This is your main.
TV.
I just got a zap. So you have forested wetlands, which you have developed after agriculture ceased. There was probably grazing. And then it used to be all emergent wetlands, and now they're kind of a scrub mosaic. So, yeah. So that hasn't changed. You still have forested swamps.
Because then you can see the woody here.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry about that. So what I want to do next is sort of kind of give you, there's a lot of information in this report. And I want to tell you about functions and values. So what we've done in the past, and we redid it today, is this is something that We do for larger projects, we don't do it for smaller projects. If you haven't seen me do it for smaller projects, I apologize. But we basically take the rationales from the descriptive approach, which is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers approach, and go through methodically, and we come up with the ratings. So table 1, which is in the appendix, tells you that the W1 system, which is the large continuum one, has several principal functions. And when we say principal functions, those are the ones that are at a higher level. They're above average for comparing them regionally, say. So we have groundwater recharge, discharge. No one would argue that. That's mostly what we get anyhow. We have wildlife habitat, large contiguous system. And I put visual aesthetics as a, maybe back then it was more so than now, but again, it's in the eye of the beholder. And the W5 still has principal functions, but not as many. And one is nutrient removal, retention, transformation. Obviously, you have a watershed that has development that goes into it, so it's doing something. So again, not pristine wetlands, but definitely wetlands that are functioning. And so in the report, what I've done for each one of the functions that are recognized, whether it's principal or not, I'm giving you sort of a little bit of a blurb as to what potential impacts and mitigations. You have an idea of what's going on. There's some things are getting lower, some things are getting higher, but overall, in my view, we don't have a significant impact on functions and values of the wetlands that remain. And obviously, most of them do remain, except for those small areas. Now, one of the things that I said regarding mitigation, let me back up. In the grand scheme of things, in my professional view, the direct impact is not of high intensity, especially if you all look at the offset of the mitigation. So that's the direct impact. And then you have the 3 categories of what I call indirect impacts, which you've heard me say before. And you have the ones that are the short-term impacts and erosion sedimentation controls. This is not a difficult site. I mean, it has been hammered in the past. It's flat, which is really good. The soils are, there's some areas where they're finer, and most of them they're not. They're sandies, and if they weren't, he wouldn't be able to doing his water quality and filtration in his basins. So, and they've done testing on that and proved that that's going to be fine. So I don't have any concern as far as the short term. Obviously, erosion sedimentation controls are going to have to be maintained and repaired as necessary. From a removal of native vegetation, so usually we, how close you're getting to the wetlands. Again, you almost have like an upland island that's surrounded by wetlands. And one of the things that they've said is the backsides of the buildings almost acting as screens to the wetlands. So all the activity, most of the activity is happening in the front of the buildings. So that's a good thing as far as that's concerned.
Will it be like yards in the back?
Patios and decks, that's all.
And landscaping.
Yeah.
Lots of landscaping. No issues with hydrology. We're not changing hydrology, as you can said. I mean, like you said, very often you see the big detention basin and everything kind of goes there. Here, even if we wanted to do that, we couldn't because we're surrounded by wetlands. Water quality impacts, again, pervious surfaces, these gravel filter strips, which I like tremendously. And so I don't have concerns about that either. Now, on mitigation, and this is something that I need to kind of discuss. In the past, we had, and I think that Georgie did mention, probably looking at my old reports, that I had some landscaping tables which ended up being on the landscaping plans. I don't have them attached to this report now, and the reason for that is I found out by 13 years later, things have changed. So even though the wetlands that we want to mitigate, which are to the north of the main crossing, sorry, north is not up, that's west. You always mix me up that way. Those are probably still going to happen. Wetland 2, which was that older thicket. Why is it an older thicket? Well, because it's so disturbed and depaupered as far as the soils are concerned, and the only thing that can take advantage is something that can fix its own nitrogen and fertilize itself. So that's why you have the alder, but it's a monoculture, which ain't good. So my thought is, when the time comes for this to be built, God willing, then I would have to come back and do a little bit of tweaking as far as those areas we've selected, and maybe even select other areas with a goal of having the same amount or more of the extent of mitigation, both enhancement, restoration, and creation that we've already proposed. For instance, one of the things that we could do, looking at wetland number 5, which is the one in the triangle, which has obviously been disturbed in the past. When you look at that wetland, one of the things you see is that it's very depopulated in the understory as far as diversity of shrubs. So that's an easy fix. It's a few invasives, you can cull those out, not too many, and you just dot it with a few things like winterberry, whatever else will take the hydrology. So I see that working with staff, potentially, or maybe even doing an informal before the commission, when the time comes, I can kind of morph the mitigation to where it actually fits the conditions at the time when it's going to happen, instead of going, we're clearing this and we're doing this. Why? So, for example, you could go into that older thicket and say, okay, we're going to keep this perimeter up against the buildings, which makes sense because it's screening, it's there, they're large. They don't get very big, but they can get 25, 30 feet high. And then the inside, where there's more light coming in, we can do something else, which is going to diversify. And then you create a little enclave of habitat that wasn't there before. So some things like that. So overall, I think that this project is actually gotten a little better because we were forced to make it better because of some of the regulations and standards that have come down the pipe. So that's all I have to offer for at this time, unless you have questions.
George, you have anything?
Hang on 1 second.
So my question is, how do we quantify that in the approval?
For the mitigation?
Yeah, if we're not gonna specify the plan.
Well, we have to have them added, come back to us, but.
So I think one of the conditions from staff is that the mitigation be done under the supervision of the wetlands expert. I think it's one of the conditions.
Similar to what I just did in 29 Moody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there were several times making sure they were doing things right.
But in terms of it's one thing to say you're gonna mitigate it, but the quantifying.
Well, we have our full plan now.
Yeah, I see that,
You know,
yeah.
so that's the basis, I think, of what my recommendation.
But you're
That's
just
the
saying
basis.
changing some of the
But,
species.
but leave it up to the, professional at the time when we're there in the real world with staff.
So
And,
if there is something that we do, if there are changes made during construction, they have to notify us, give us a sheet of what was changed, and they have to ask for that change to be accepted into the proposal.
Yeah.
So if that does happen, depending on what it is, you could potentially see it come back, and I could report on it as an agent approval.
Yeah.
But that's just some of the things that we have every now and again if a site
So
figures
it's
out.
normal for you.
Yeah, and the only comment I have is from the engineering department about the proposed 18-inch diameter drainage pipe, for that to be addressed during the final plans. And just to remove the elderly from the final plans.
yeah, there's still a couple elderly.
Scratched it out of my report.
I thought I caught it wrong.
As well as page 3
Yeah,
and.
It was a remnant.
Yeah.
And then everything else will just be handled during PZC and when they apply for their building permits.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And following up with that, we have no, as far as we've looked at the staff recommendations for conditions, and we have no objections or proposals.
Look at the old conditions, and, they did have on there as a site specific, as the conservation area. And then there was one of the properties, you were gonna put a fence near one of the, you were gonna do something with the fence.
I think I'm for one of the neighbors,
Yeah,
it's on one of your color drawings.
number 18, maybe.
which may be, in today's world, we may or may not do that, depending upon if it's the same neighbor or not.
Yeah.
Some neighbors don't like fences.
Yeah, something about lot 94.
I
maybe
can picture them
going
calling
south.
staff up right now, asking them, why is there a fence going up in that backyard?
Yeah, so I don't know what you wanna do with that one.
We'll deal with that with TPZ.
Yeah, that's more of that.
Easy.
PCC.
BCC, yeah,
They scrambled the letters here just to confuse you.
yes, they did.
I thought you were in Farmington.
Well, so we'll be, again, happy to answer any other questions some of the commissioners may have.
Jenny, yeah, any questions? No? Anybody else? I mean, this isn't a, in the wetlands thing, but the traffic division, I'm not an engineer or anything, but,
Yeah, it's just part of the,
yeah.
they just get tagged in.
Yeah, but they say to move the crosswalk to the other side. I don't think why, because fresh water, the sidewalks are on this side. You move it over here, and then there's no sidewalk. You know, you cross over South Road. I didn't understand that.
I think he made that, I'm not gonna say it's an error, I think it's gotta be clarified exactly where he wants it, but I agree with you, the sidewalk's on the west side,
Yeah,
and the crosswalk might have to be relocated slightly from that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think it's still on that side of the intersection.
yeah, because I kept reading and I drive by it every day, so I kept looking and saying, why are we?
And I don't know if it's handicap accessible yet as well. I
No,
think that's one of the
unfortunately,
reasons.
Frank, 13 years has gone by and the signal is going to need a lot of work.
Yeah, and it's not us, but I just didn't understand them.
No, we talked about that thing too, and I saw
Yeah.
that. I was actually on that property just literally yesterday, and I saw that exactly thing.
Yeah.
The sidewalk is on that west side.
Yeah, so if you move the crosswalk
On
over
freshwater,
here.
it's gonna be the opposite side, but I
Yeah.
think his point was to move it over so it's aligning probably more distance away from the intersection where it's supposed to be.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think it's moving to the opposite side.
Oh, that's good, yeah. I'm thinking you don't want to be dumped into,
It's one of the benefits is to have the pedestrian accessibility,
yeah, yeah,
whether it's a sidewalk.
yeah. That's a bad corner right
Yeah,
there.
I think that's what he meant, is to make sure we align it properly per the code.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't understand that, so thank you for that. Anything else? Chris, you want to say something?
I had a question, but I figured it out, so I'm good.
Oh, okay. Anybody else have any? No. Questions or concerns?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I will make a,
Motion.
yeah, no, just for the site-specific condition to monitor the creation and enhancement of the wetland areas. We have there, I didn't specifically see it, but I assume there's a maintenance plan in there.
Yes, there is, yes.
All right, I will make a motion to approve IW number 691, 145, and 153 South Road, application for a wetlands permit for the development of the Maplewood Village Apartments, Enfield Properties LLC, and Maplewood Village of Enfield LLC. Applicant owners, map 55, lot 80, and map 55, lot 59, I1R44 zone. With the site-specific condition that the applicant's PE or soil scientist will monitor the creation / enhancement of the wetland areas on site during the development and our standard conditions as well.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Discussion? Could you?
Okay. Donna Corbin Zabinski.
Yes.
Kevin Zorda.
Yes.
Virginia Higley, yes. Ann Collins.
Yes.
Chris Renaud.
Yes.
5 in favor, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, you.
And
That's
next
gonna
time,
be nice.
I'll know where the flag is.
Yeah, that should be very
And
nice.
especially being in there, we'll be in touch, we'll make sure everything's good.
She'll let you know, don't worry.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Walk around my neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
Just don't take 13 years to build it.
Yeah, probably want to do a little sooner.
1971 books.
Come on.
Yeah.
Before I retired.
Next is new business, this is DPN 2023, 10-27 North Maple Street, application for the jurisdiction ruling for timber harvest for agricultural cropland, first time the applicant, Mayfield Place.
Thanks, Jim.
Second LLC owner, map 39, lot 11, R44. We did get a letter, they want to continue this to December 5th.
Then we are approving that.
We're approving continuation to December 5th. Keep all your notes.
Yes. Is there a motion and a second?
Do we need to vote on it?
Just to say.
Just to be
Okay.
safe.
I will make a motion to accept the continuance for DPN number 2023 10-27 North Maple Street.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call?
Donna Corbin Zabinski.
Yes.
Kevin Zorda.
Yes.
Virginia Higley, yes. Ann Collins.
Yes.
Chris Renaud.
Yes.
5 in favor, motion passes. Next on our agenda, we move the calendar, the new calendar for 2024-25.
I will make a motion to accept the 2024 meeting calendar as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Nope. It looks good. I checked all the dates. So I think we're good. Roll call?
Donna Corbin Zabinski.
Yes.
Kevin Zorda.
Yes.
Virginia Higley, yes. Ann Collins.
Yes.
Chris Renaud.
Yes.
5 in favor, motion passes. So we have a new calendar. Any enforcement reports?
None to report.
None. Okay. Report of planning staff.
So today we received a letter in the mail from Lodestar Energy. They are intending to file a petition for a declaratory ruling with the Connecticut Siting Council. This will be for approximately 1.93 megawatts of a solar farm over at 141 Town Farm Road. They haven't applied yet. This is just letting us know that they do intend to apply. And on 141 Town Farm Road, there are no wetlands anywhere near the site. So just got that in the mail today. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Applications to be received is IW 692 1A Glenwood Street, application for a wetland permit for the removal of a 16 by 32 in-ground pool. Paul Moore, applicant owner, map 76, lot 236, R44 zone. Next application to receive is AAA 133-13 Louise Drive. Louise. Application for the authorized agent approval for a shed. Josh Morgan, applicant. Marie.
Benitez, Ashier, Rise.
Thank you very much. Owner, map 53, lot 324, R33 zone. And the last one to receive is IW 693 327 Brainerd Road.
I have a sentence if you want me to read as part of record.
Perfect.
Application for wetlands permit for the maintenance of the detention pond. Jennifer Breimer and Michael McManus applicants. Ashmead Commons Condominium Association owner, map 77, lot 58, R33 zone.
Thank you. So those would be heard on December 5th. Yeah. And then we go to miscellaneous. Just want to say, everybody have a nice holidays. Good holiday for Thanksgiving. And sorry you didn't make it onto the.
Oh, no.
I'm not.
I'd
You're still with us.
rather be here.
Okay, good. Okay, good, thanks. But thank you for doing all that work. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, thanks.
Anybody else have anything to
Nothing.
say?
Ginny
Ginny made a motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
she did?
Yeah, Ginny, want a second?
Second?
Chris, second. All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion passes, it is 7:54.
Can you read that motion?
Oh, Ginny?
Chris.